Hey, it's Sonia, and welcome to the Smarta Podcast.
I am truly so excited for you just to tune in to today's shorter, yet a lot more heartwarming and empowering episode of today. Let me tell you why. If you constantly look at my episode, then you know I have guests which are way down their career and have accomplished amazing, astonishing, and inspiring things. But since my podcast is directed towards young professionals, students, people still in high school, it can get very overwhelming for you and me if the person right now listening is of my age, still in university, still in high school, still in studying. It can get very overwhelming in getting things done day to day and sticking with them, especially when you don't see success following right behind you down the trail. That's why on today's podcast, I felt so refreshing and finally understood because I've invited someone my age who is a freshman in college, but regardless has accomplished so many things just like me, where I felt like I sat down with a friend and talked business. Right before we begin, though, I want to ask you a favor. If you know a person that is currently in high school, if you have a friend that is studying, if you're a parent and your child is currently in school, send this episode and share it with them because I truly feel like they will leave after listening to this entire episode feeling empowered and ready to tackle the challenges that the world will face them. And now you know why I think it's worth you listen to this half an hour podcast. I want to introduce you to the guest of today. This guest is Shesh Budhabhatti. Shesh is the founder and executive director of GURLS, Girls United Reaching for Success, a nonprofit dedicated to increasing female representation in chess, a space where women have historically been underrepresented. A top chess player from Connecticut, she has been playing since the age of only 3 and now uses her platform to empower young women to step into the game with confidence. Beyond chess, Shesh is an ambassador at Northeastern University Entrepreneurs Club and has helped upbring clubs like Chess Club and FBLA at her school, emphasizing her commitment to building supportive and impactful communities. She's also involved in skiing, swimming, and prestigious programs like the International Internship Program, Junior Achievement, and internships at Medtronic and KPMG. Shesh has recently delivered a TED Talk titled Empowering Equality, Inspiring Action, inspiring young women to take charge of their futures, a must-watch for anyone passionate about creating positive change. Shesh's journey is a masterclass in leadership, advocacy, and using one's talents to uplift others. All right, are you ready to find out what you need to do to start feeling more empowered and like you already know what you want to do? Then let's get started. Shesh, welcome to the Smarta family. And on here on the podcast, it's great to have you. It's honestly a pleasure. I cannot wait to deep dive into our episode today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
I want to take you first on your amazing journey. Looking at you as a high school student that also has started from such a young age is honestly truly inspiring. And despite your age, you didn't let that hold you down, and you're always proactive and you drive change. And I really wanted to say that because I admire people that show initiative and that want to help the community. Now, on the Smarta podcast, I always ask the guest to tell me to talk directly with the listener. So if you could talk directly with a person listening right now, what are the 3 main things that you would tell them?
If I could sum up all the 3 key takeaways, it would be 1, follow your passion. Because if something honestly feels like work, like you're just checking off tasks instead of actually enjoying the process and understanding it, when things get hard, there's less of a likelihood of perseverance. So the thing that truly drives you, the thing that makes you curious enough to keep going, even when it gets hard, that's where you'll actually find your true potential. And another thing is taking initiative. I know this is mentioned a lot, but no one's going to tell you to keep going. And no one's going to hand you the opportunities, and whatever you want to do and you believe you want something, then you should go out and find those opportunities. And if they're not there, then you should create them, because that's how I started my nonprofit and how I got into cybersecurity. I just started, and at first I didn't even know I wanted to go into cybersecurity, but I wanted to find out more about it. So once I found opportunities, and you don't need permission to take that first step, which is a big thing. And lastly is empowering others, because true success isn't just about what you achieve. It's also about who you bring up alongside you. The more you give is the more you grow, and I truly believe that. And in my case, when I'm coaching kids, I realize patterns and things that I didn't even know ahead of time, which is a big thing. So when you're supporting the people around you, you're not just helping them, but you're also creating a positive, lasting impact that essentially benefits everyone. So overall, find out what excites you, go after it, and bring other people alongside with you.
I love that. Follow your passion has always been my mantra, let's call it. I'm always looking up to following my dreams and to keeping consecutive on my goals that I've set. I'm also very intrigued about empowering others. I want to direct you now, because I've watched ahead before getting into the recording with you at your TED Talk. We're called Empowering Equality and Inspiring Others, Inspiring Action. And you were interested in, or let's say you found the world of chess at only the age of 3. Now, I want to make sure that the person listening hears this, because it's crazy. So you started playing chess at 3 years old. And this to me sounds amazing, because even though you described it at the start as, let's say, a sort of silly game, you weren't really aware of what you were getting yourself into, if I may say so.
Yeah.
You were really just learning through something fun that seemed fun. And so you have now started this nonprofit, which is checkmate.org. And I'm just amazed by your progress. So I want to start off with asking you, what drew you to chess? What was it? How did all this, let's say, years of inspiration come from? Where was the seed?
Yeah, so you're right. I definitely just saw it around me, because both my parents, they played all the time after dinner, whether it was with each other, family, friends, or just really anyone who was up for the game. And since I saw that so often, I feel like I just naturally became curious. Like, I saw the weird shaped pieces, I saw how they moved, like the knight jumps around the horse. But once I actually started to play, I realized there was just so much more to that. Like, it started as a curiosity, but I truly believe because of that curiosity, that's why I got more into it. So I believe that each move is like a puzzle, and I've always enjoyed problem solving, and chess is very big on not having one right answer. It's about strategy, thinking ahead, and I truly believe that's what kept me hooked. But as I did get older, I started to notice fewer and fewer girls were competing in the tournaments, and it wasn't that they were very interested, but I feel like there were so many more factors, whether that was self-doubt or feeling like they didn't belong, or just not seeing enough representation in the community. And for me, I personally saw how much that chess impacted my life, whether it was critical thinking or just resilience. And I wanted other girls to have that same experience without feeling like an outsider. Overall, I think a big thing is that I realized when you see someone who looks like you doing something, it feels possible for you too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that problem solving is such a core skill any leader can have, whether that means a leader as in a sort of friend group you have if you're younger and you're not yet at the age of being a student at university, or way before the age of starting something in the corporate world, whether that means being in the an executive. So I want to ask you here a question that just popped up in my head. Why do you think problem solving is so important for the development of a child, or really to becoming better at what you do, or realizing a sort of getting grasp at the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, as we're growing, there's so many obstacles, there's so many things that you don't expect. And if you are in your head about, oh, I'm not sure what to do, if you don't have that direct problem solving skills, then how would you really overcome these? How would you plan to overthrow those obstacles and then better improve yourself? So with those problem solving skills, which I personally got from chess, I believe overall it would just be impactful off the board.
Mhm. Definitely. And so I think I want to link this problem solving, as it can, to me, when I looked you up, I can instantly see how this transferred over to your life and how it inspired you to take action in the community and start this nonprofit, especially because now I want to lead you into this world of chess, because it's really a sport, and it's a while it can be a fun game, it's something I believe everyone has access to that really holds so much more of a power than many assume. So in your TED Talk, you said this thing. According to the International Chess Federation, only 15% of registered chess players are female.
Yeah.
That just goes to show how
Like,
much of a male-dominated field and sport this is. Now, I want to ask you some of the challenges that you've faced as a young female chess player, and how these inspired you to create this nonprofit, GURLS.
yeah. So a big challenge was being one of the only females out of a handful. Like you said, there is only 16%, but without even knowing that number, it was also just my surroundings. Like I was able to tell there were barely any females, and there were so many times where I was the only female in a room, and I tended to feel out of place. And I know that wasn't intentional, but at the same time, that was just what happened. And I also saw so many women quit, or just so many people in general, because they were bored or didn't have that same representation, which is why I started GURLS, to find that community where kids had that mentorship, that confidence, and had those role models in the game that they look up to, or just had that representation.
Okay. So, as you were saying your response there, I also got another question.
Yeah.
So you said that you've mentored other girls, and you actually taught over 65 young girls in Connecticut um, to inspire them to play chess. Can you give me, off of the top of your head, one exercise or one routine that you love that can be transferred over not only when playing chess, but in real life in terms of those deductible skills of being a quick thinker and a problem solver?
Yeah, so the game overall, when you're playing in a tournament, yes, it's about winning. But when you come with our coaching, it's not just about winning, but it's also about being confident in your own abilities and having a place where you aren't afraid to try new things and you're not afraid of that environment of failure, essentially. So what I do is I go more into the timing. So it's not just you think too much about it and you try and hope you win, but it's more about you follow your instincts, and then you do those instincts because there's a timer next to you. And those instincts gather up, and then you see how those, again, instincts are played and how those can affect in the long run. And they end up you trusting yourself, you gaining that confidence in yourself, and then again, it leads outside the board. It's not just about inside the board, but goes out to finding those obstacles. You trust your instincts. You do what you believe is right or you believe would help you overcome the challenges, which is a big thing.
It is. It certainly is a big thing. And so I want to take you here onto a little story time. So representation is a very powerful mentor, motivator. And I want to ask you to think back to a time where a young girl we taught was inspired by something that you did through your programs, and that showed this, let's say, massive progression from when she first started playing chess to how she approaches it now.
Yeah, so I remember there was a 9-year, 10-year-old girl who we coached, and my classes are very communicative or like talking a lot of questions and answers. And I recall that she wouldn't really answer my questions, wouldn't really speak her mind. So over the next few weeks, we focused again more on just winning. We created a space where she felt comfortable to make mistakes, to play with her friends, to play with newer people, and again, making those mistakes without some sort of consequence. So it wasn't just about that competition per se, but again, that confidence in her own abilities. And after training with us, she did start competing in her tournaments, which she was nervous about at first because, again, it was the stranger aspect. But she started playing, and then she actually won her first tournament, which it was like heartwarming. And it was like heartwarming and everything, but seeing her transformation very much reminded me why I do this work and how they take this problem-solving skills and confidence and they make even further impact for society, for their future jobs, or just future, like, what they want to do per se.
So I'm really interested now. You gave me an example of someone you taught or you mentored. Now let's flip the tables. Someone that you look up to.
Okay.
So off of the top of your head, can you give me the person that's been there as a sort of shining, guiding light, the role model or mentor who you've been looking up to throughout your journey, both in chess, but also in your broader leadership work that I assume the nonprofit obviously calls for?
So I know this is going to sound generic, but my parents, like my dad, he's always been a mentor to me. He's been through chess, but also in swimming. Like I've been swimming for, again, almost all my life, and he was my swim coach. So he has that constant mentorship that he's the one who introduced me to chess and then taught me to approach these challenges with curiosity rather than fear. And then my mom, and again, I know I'm talking about my parents, but she carries such a mindset to where she will do whatever she pleases and believes, regardless of the obstacles, which I truly admire. And this showed me firsthand what perseverance can do. As like when she works, I see how she has that mindset and how she accomplishes her goals.
And it's not just your parents. It's the people that have been there with you all your life, that have been subtly influencing all the external factors of your life, how you approach, let's say, a situation in which which might seem intimidating at first or overwhelming. And they definitely, I think, parents play a huge part in the impact that they can have on raising successful children. So let's talk about a question from, let's say, a young person to a young person about balancing work life, which is such a common question and a cliche almost, but is so overlooked and overly sought after that I can never go wrong by asking you this. So, in addition to running a nonprofit, you're involved in so many activities. Like I said, you've done the TED Talk. You've now started this nonprofit, and you founded clubs. You've done internships all around. How do you balance all these roles from a day-to-day point of view, but more importantly, what keeps you going? What's that motivation that, regardless of whether you've had a bad day, you look at it or you think about it and you say, I must keep going?
So time management, it's such a big thing about everything. And again, cliche, but that's a big part of everything. I plan my weeks and my assignments in advance, but I also focus on the priorities. So I know that deadlines are usually given, but for me, I make my own deadlines. I would put something due about 2 days earlier. So if something's due Friday, I plan it to get it done by Wednesday. And then that Thursday may be like a double check with the teacher, with friends, etc. So you have that buffer period. So you're able to do your best work and then not have that constant stress. And another thing is when I feel very overwhelmed, like I have too many things on my mind, I simply just write everything down. Like writing it down, pencil, paper, sticky note, just write everything down and balance what I want to do for that day. Because a little check mark and a little tick is also a dopamine booster, which always helps. And beyond organizing my time, a big thing is having that overarching goal. That's what keeps me motivated, because if I know what I want to achieve in the long run, that goal reminds me that discipline is key. And if I don't want to do my assignments or I don't want to do what I have planned, then I wouldn't see a true impact of those assignments. I wouldn't see my goal happening if I don't put in the work. And when I transitioned to college, because I am a first year, I saw how important routines were. It's not just productivity, but it's also setting a time for food, going to the gym, hanging out with friends, and then also having that study time, just making sure you don't burn out overall. So you keep that motivation, that discipline. At the same time, it's a balance. So it's not just work, but it's work and everything. So
Definitely. And I'm laughing now because time management is the ultimate factor that plays such a huge role in my life, and I can never seem to get a hang of. You did mention that your goals are the ones that keep you motivated. Can I ask, what's your goal? What's your mission? What do you aim to do?
So a big part of what I aim to do is to everything I am interested in, I want to make time for it. So, and I want to make sure that my health is all good, because that's a big thing, especially in my family, just making sure everything's healthy. But then overall, for my work goal, I want to go into cybersecurity. And I know I wouldn't be able to achieve a goal of my cybersecurity job unless I truly put in work for cybersecurity. I know I wouldn't be able to do the leadership and the speaker work unless I put in the work for coaching these kids. So it's very much whatever you do now, they have a long-term goal and a long-term success that can only be achieved with the work you're doing now. Every step is, again, a step in the right direction.
Definitely. Every step you take is a goal, is a step towards your goal and a step closer, because I think this can also be relatable to you, consistency is overall playing a bigger part than determination or motivation that comes and goes with time. But consistency really is the, let's say, pin on that whole board of vision, of goals, of steps taken towards your future. I know I've mentioned your TED Talk before. I want to come back to it. So it's called Empowering Equality, Inspiring Action, as I've said, and it clearly resonates with many people. So I want to ask you here, what key message do you intend to share with the audience from that powerful speech?
I love how this also goes back to the previous question about just starting small. Look around you, because something around you is going to need some sort of help or some extra support. So whether that's a person around you or just like something overall in your community or school, it could be starting a club, being more inclusive, or just raising awareness about something that you believe. but a small impact is still a positive impact. And I like to relate this to solving a puzzle, because if you get one piece right, that helps so much. That helps you figure out the rest of the pieces. So you keep putting that first step, you keep pushing forward, and then you never know the difference you can make unless you try.
You never know the difference you can make unless you try. I just want to let that sit, because I think this resonates to so many of us, especially young, successful and entrepreneurs or people profiting, because you get so carried away with your daily routine, and you're always thinking, I need to go bigger, I need to do more, I need to set a goal and to accomplish it, to get closer to my career, to get closer to achieving my dream life. But it can get so easy to get carried away in all this wave of I need to improve. So that it's so important to just step away and really focus on how much you've accomplished, how far you've come. And I think taking a moment to reflect, even at the end of every week, is so powerful, because here's a interesting question. Do you have a vision board?
I do.
You do. I do as well. I happen to have one as well. And you know what I did, Shesh, before meeting you, before, let's say, 2 years ago, actually, this is the first year that I'm doing it, is that I would make a vision board. I would place so much emphasis on doing that in November, because I'd like to get it a little earlier than December. And I would make it. I would look at it. I would print it. I would keep it in my bedroom. I would wake up every single day looking at it. But you know what I would never do? Reflect weekly or even often on if I was taking the right steps every single day to achieving what I set myself to do.
Right.
Because recently I feel like time is moving so fast. I think you could agree.
Yeah, I do agree. 100%.
Especially as a freshman, I think you're introduced to this whole new world of all of the things that I know I haven't done. So I'm thinking now about actually taking care of getting your groceries done. And you're actually the youngest guest on the Smarter podcast. So this episode is home to me, because I inspire and I get inspired and I look up to a lot of people that are way further down their careers. But looking to you, to so many things that you've done and achieved, and knowing that you're actually young is amazing, because I feel like I finally relate to you and can understand and realize that it's okay that I'm taking things peaceful at my own pace.
Yeah, of course. And what you're doing right now is already something that a lot of people aren't. Like, your own podcast is great.
Right. Thank you. And you are too. So I want to link to this moment of reflection and positive change to an advice that you could give to the person listening that, say, is young, still in high school, that wants to create this movement, wants to have an impact on the community, but doesn't know where to start. What would you tell them?
I would say find out what you truly believe in. It's not about the people around you at all. Because when I was in high school, I had the whole COVID stuff, and I remember feeling very behind on the previous generations. So I wanted to catch up as quickly as possible. But instead, in turn, that just burned me out. And I realized that this isn't going to help me achieve what I want. Everyone's different. Everyone has their own path. Everyone has what they want to do. So simply find out what truly passionate and what you truly want to achieve. And then just start there. Start with any small thing around you, because, again, 1% every day will in turn lead to something. And if you're helping someone else, that person may take that as a sort of motivation for themselves and then help other people. It's almost like a butterfly effect or a ripple effect, that just whatever you do, do it full-heartedly, do it with the right intentions, and that is something you created and you did, and that's something that you can use to either feel like that sense of, oh, wow, I did that, and then you keep moving from there. There's no timeline for anything, and that's such a big thing. There's no timeline. There's no, yes, you're too late. There's no, you're like too young. Just do what you think is right, and then work from there.
Definitely. And I agree so much with what you just said, because laying the ground building blocks of where you want to go is already taking that first step. Many people think it's so overwhelming to just start, but just starting out is actually a lot easier than you might think it is. Especially because I feel like we as humans set this huge block to ourselves when we have this huge, let's say, almost impossible looking dream that we want to accomplish, because we think it's too big, too overwhelming to achieve. And actually just starting out is you taking a step towards accomplishing that dream in the first place. So,
And you may not even know it's your dream yet. Like when I first started coaching chess, it was just to my cousin. It was just like, oh yeah, I might as well coach you. Like, why not? You want to learn, I'll help you. But then that grew, and at first I didn't even expect it, but that's just what happens when you already start that first step.
Mhm. So I think the most important thing here is, through everything that you've just told me, setting yourself a goal. For example, you could start as easy. Let's say you like playing chess. Obviously, you have different goals, but this is something I would give myself if I were you. Teach 100 young girls in Connecticut to play chess, but also inspire them, so that will lead them into something bigger if ultimately chess isn't where they want to go. And whether those first girls aren't inspired or not, you will stick doing it. And then at the end, it's a guarantee. Like it's a promise that you would have inspired at least half, because what you said, that passion transfers around and you can definitely notice it. So as a young person to a young person talking now, it's often very easy as adults to get lost in the corporate world. So talking to you in particular is something that I want to ask, because it's related around the business world and what you would see around your vision towards improving companies and improving organizations. So here's my question for you, Shesh. How can schools and organizations better support young women in leadership, whether in chess, in STEM, or even beyond?
Yeah, so representation is such a big thing. When you're talking about these role models, when you're talking about these people in different fields, I definitely ensure to include both women and male role models. So, and offer programs and actively encourage these girls to participate in competitions and leadership roles, that they aren't just like isolated from the rest, but it's more that it's them against everyone, with everyone as well. It's very much boys and girls shown together in the same spotlight. So it's not just they should be an outlier, but they can achieve whatever they put their mind to as well.
I really like that. And so now, as we're getting away from the questions that I've set for you and into the traditions that I have here on the Smarter podcast, ever since I discovered this question, I've asked every single guest without skipping one, because it's so important to me, especially since, as you can see behind me, I have a full library. I am a vivid reader, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I feel like reading and books have an immense power, and they can really set the groundwork and the basics for anything you want to do. It's as easy and as accessible to anyone as couple of pages. So if you could give me the top two books that you would say completely transformed your life or the way you perceive it or your perspective in which you view the life.
So one book that I would have to say is Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. And I actually discovered this book in my home library. It was just there. So it sounds very simple, and honestly, it is at first. But the more you read it, the more powerful the message is. It's about change and how we react to it. So life is constantly throwing curveballs all the time, whether it's moving to a new city, shifting career paths, or just dealing with something that's unexpected. This book really taught me that instead of fearing change, you should embrace it. You should adapt quickly and keep moving forward and stop dwelling on the past, per se. And instead of fearing that change, embrace it. And what really connected to me because of this book was I've moved many times. I've moved, I think, 3 times in a year once. And every time I've had to find new friends, had to find new opportunities, and essentially I had to rebuild everything. And this genuinely showed me how adapting is such a big thing. And another book would have to be Atomic Habits by, I'm pretty sure it's Johnson. Yes, it's Atomic Habits by James Clear. And this book completely changed the way I thought about progress, which goes back to what I was saying before. This book really helped me on that. It drills down on the idea that what you see on TV isn't what you really expect when you're thinking about achievement. It's not just, oh, wow, right away, I have a big flashy moment where I won and I have a big success. It's about showing up every day, even when no one's watching, whether your plan is to be fit and you go to the gym every day. But it's just at least getting 1% better every day, showing up, and it drills on the idea that small and consistent actions can combine into massive results. So there's no drastic changes that happen overnight just from a once-in-a-time motivation, but it's about having that discipline that you constantly do it. Those would definitely be my top 2 books, and if you haven't read them, I would definitely check them out.
I love Atomic Habits because I've also read it and it's in my library and it's very close to me and it speaks for all the nights that I spent doomlessly scrolling on social media and made me realize that actually all that time could be directed and channeled towards something so much more great and productive and that I would look back to with a lot of gratitude as to how far it led me when I didn't even think it would have that big of a chain effect.
Yeah,
So that's
and
Atomic Habits by James Clear. And your first book was
Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. And both of these books, I'm still going through and working through them, but it just it really changed my mindset, and I hope to achieve what they're achieving.
Definitely. And so now we reach the point where I ask you the question of the Smarter Podcast tradition, which is I asked my previous guest to leave a question for the next one. And so my last guest, Frank Sinclair, has this question for you. What was the greatest outcome for finding out who you are?
Wow. So for me, the greatest outcome of finding out who I am has been realizing that you don't need to fit in just one box. You don't just need to be a college student, just don't need to be a computer science major, but you could essentially be whatever you want to be, and you could pursue whatever you want to pursue. So I'm pursuing cybersecurity within comp-sci, but then I'm also interested in business, so I'm pursuing the finance within business as I'm a combined major. Then I'm continuing to be a chess player, a speaker, and an upcoming reader, trying to keep going with that. But I can do all of that at once. It's not just a defined one box, but you can embrace every opportunity that comes your way that you're interested in and take advantage of that. And I'm still learning from the people and the leaders around me. and I want to keep adding to my undefined box. It's basically like big circle or just, you can just keep adding. That's the big thing.
I love that. I love that you can be whoever you want to be. Nobody sets you those limits but yourself. And nobody has one job. Everybody has countless passions, countless hobbies. You choose who you want to be, and you set your own groundwork. I started with you talking to the listener. I want to end it in the same way. So, if you could talk directly with the listener, as any parting advice, one idea, one concept, one habit, what would you leave them with?
Stay curious, take risks, and surround yourself with people who uplift you in a positive impact, and then make sure you can also help uplift those people as well. Goes both ways.
It does go both ways. And we all have the potential to empower others, whether it's through mentorship, whether it's through volunteering, or just being a friend that stands up for others. And it's all really bottled down to the small actions that you take, which can really add up to your story. And it's never too early, too late, or too far into your career to start making an impact into your community. I love this episode, Chase, and
Great.
I'd like to thank you so much for being on the Smarta podcast. It
Right.
has been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it's always a pleasure, and I wish you all the best in your upcoming events as you continue your journey in becoming a leader, and I wish you nothing but success.
Thank you.
Instead of fearing change, embrace it. That's the message that I'm going to leave you for today's podcast. And as always, I want to keep you consistent on achieving your goals because you're so much more closer to achieving them than you think. And as I said it during the recording, you are already taking a step towards your dream if you're thinking about it. If you have a vision board, if you're taking the right steps towards achieving your goals. And that just goes to say that if you have a vision board, a moment of reflection can really go so far because you're not only reflecting on what went well, what could be a point where you could improve more, but you're seeing if what your daily habits are and what you're directing and channeling all your energy is worth your time, but also is working towards your dream. So take a moment and think about what you're doing every single day, your daily routine, and if it's working towards your dream or working against it. As always, I wanted to take a moment now and tell you the first thing, if nobody else told you today, that I truly believe that you can accomplish your dreams and achieve the life that you've always wanted. I'm Sonia Marta. You've listened to the Smarta podcast, and I cannot wait to see you again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.